Here's why the Monstera is my favourite choice for a houseplant for any home. Hello guys, and welcome back to the Cozy Jungle. And today we're going through the Monstera and why I think it's the favourite choice, especially for me, when it comes to having a houseplant in your home. Now there are plenty of choices that you can have within your home of houseplants. It could be something like a spider plant, a ZZ plant, it could be anything. However, my personal favourite is a Monstera. Not because I have an abundance of them, but throughout the whole time of when I started developing this enjoyment of looking at houseplants and looking after them, I've found that the Monstera has stood the test of time. It's grown in every part of my home, in any environment, and it has done extremely well. I've loved it right the way through. I've never really had an issue with them, regardless of what I do with them. So let me take you through some of the Monsteras that I've got at the moment and why I think they are the best choice to go forward. Now when it comes to Monsteras, obviously they come in different shapes and sizes depending on how mature they are. Now this is one that I actually propagated not too long ago, and it's taken a little bit of time, but mostly because of the fact that I haven't actually had it in a lot of sunlight. It's been sat next to the TV for a while. It doesn't get that much sunlight except for during the summer seasons, and it's still managed to grow fairly big. I mean, for an example, if you compare this to my hand, it's done particularly well. Now at some point this is going to develop and we'll get some new shoots coming through, which will be absolutely fine. The root systems are fantastic. It hasn't been in a big pot either, and it does do particularly well. So one thing to note is that if it doesn't get that direct sunlight, you're probably going to be looking at leaves that are quite like this. They might not necessarily grow to a massive size. They will still get the fenestrations that we're looking for, they just won't be as extreme. Now if we look onto the actual mother plant that I had when I took this propagation, you'll see a little bit more change. Now I've moved the Monstera slightly so you can get a good look at the leaves and the fenestrations that are on here. Now this is the mother plant that I had, which I used to propagate the other Monstera, which was just next to us. And as you can see, the leaves have grown a lot bigger and the fenestrations have improved. Not all of them have created some bigger fenestrations where we're looking at some holes like this, but most of these leaves now have far exceeded the size of my hand. They are much, much bigger. This is the newest leaf that has come through, and as you can see, the fenestrations haven't been as quite extreme. Now that's either I haven't given it enough nutrients, in which case I can do that, or it hasn't had the sufficient amount of lighting, or even some of the water hasn't been particularly at its best. But nevertheless, regardless of the position and the sunlight and the nutrients, it can still thrive extremely well. The root system is fantastic, and I know it is. We've got the homemade moss pole. The aerial roots are ground in towards the soil. I can let them roam free. However, sometimes it doesn't look quite appealing. But as you can tell, the leaves have really grown massive and they will continue to do so. Now, one of the other Monsteras that I've got is exactly the same thing as this, with a new set of leaves. Now as you can see, this does have a little bit more fenestration coming through compared to some of the originals, and we've got the same thing for this one here, and we also have one just in the back as well. Now again, this was all part of the full system and it does look fantastic. The new leaf is coming through particularly well. We've got that good fenestration coming through, and again, it's right next to the Monstera that we have here, but it's being covered slightly with this giant pothos variegation. So it doesn't get as much sunlight, yet the fenestrations are great, which means that the soil is probably particularly good. It's got the right nutrients, it just doesn't have the same sunlight. But the leaves, as you can tell, are slightly smaller. So again, something to bear in mind. Now, moving away from these, I upgraded to a Thai Constellation Monstera. Now this was only in a 6cm pot when I originally bought it. It was quite expensive at the time, and over time the leaves have grown just as much as the original mother plant that I've got on the Monstera the other side. So as you can see, this is the newest leaf and it's particularly massive and it's very, very healthy. We already have a new leaf that's wanting to sprout through, but they have grown extremely well. It's a beautiful, beautiful house plant. It's got that yellow streaks that are coming through, the yellow variegations, and again, all of them are very healthy. There are a few moments where I got it wrong and there was too much sunlight and it completely burnt off some of the whiter parts, the variegated parts. However, it's just a learning curve. You can see the same thing onto this one over here. But we're getting things right now, and as you can tell, fenestrations, the variegation is doing extremely well. I've got it in the right position. It is the perfect amount of sunlight. And the same thing, if we have a look at the back, I'll turn this around, you can have a look at the soil. Now the soil varies depending on where you're placing it and how much it needs. So this needed a lot of soil, mostly because of the root system. And I've got things like these to capture the moisture and just to make sure that there's good enough drainage. I've got a good Monstera potting mix and it works great. So good thing is it doesn't need to be in a particularly big pot, it just needs to be in one that has a good root system and you can anchor the aerial roots when necessary. Now my latest Monstera is this one here, is the Monstera Albo. Now this was a very, very lucky find. Now I managed to get it from a person who's not too far away from me and they didn't really know what to do with it. They had a massive collection of a completely different houseplant, which was fantastic in itself. And it was just sitting in the corner of their greenhouse. So they said, well, look, go ahead and take it. And as you can see, it is an absolutely beautiful houseplant. Incredible variegation, as you can see on the majority of the plants here. Look at the size of that and the variegation as well. Leaves are brilliant. They haven't got to quite the size that I was expecting, but that's partly because it didn't have the right kind of sunlight. Now I haven't put it in a new position of sunlight, mostly because I haven't been able to find the space. However, it's going to be coming closer towards the window and I am going to be propagating this because as you can tell at the bottom part, we haven't had a lot of luck. Now, for example, if we look at the leaves here, they've completely burnt off or they've just crisped up and they haven't got the right kind of nutrients. I'm not sure what the potting mix was that they had in here, but it definitely needs a revamp. As you can tell, the aerial roots, the system that we've got here is absolutely wild and it goes all the way up through. So it's very, very healthy in that respect. So all we're going to do really is just make sure that we propagate this in the correct way and we get a good amount of sunlight coming through and we find a perfect spot. Now this is the new leaf that's just come through. Again, an amazing amount of variegation and it's absolutely beautiful. We'll have a new leaf that's going to start to sprout through along this ridge here, but it's probably one of my favorite ones as well. So overall, we've got some fantastic houseplants, but all of the ones that I love the most are the Monsteras. We've got things like the Birds of Paradise, which has been up and coming for a while now. We've got my Thai Constellation Monstera. I've got various other houseplants that come along with all of this that I'm working on at the moment. However, I've got to say that the best option that I've ever had is the Monstera. And there we have it. The reason why the Monstera is the favorite houseplant and the best choice that you could possibly have in your home. So thank you very much for watching the video. I look forward to the next one. Please like, share and subscribe. And I look forward to getting the Cozy Jungle into as many houses as we can.